let's get this going. Despite the logo, we are very much researchers, but the logo is just to give us an identity. And what I want to talk about here today is our journey to date and the collaborations that we've had so far. So I'm going to talk a little bit about us, our journey, about our clinical need, our collaborators, our activities, milestones, and challenges and positives experience. So that particularly to talk about the relationships that we've created along the way and the challenges and positives from them. So the core team is very much Michelle Tierney and myself. Michelle is a scientist and pharmacologist, and she has a lot of experience in patient communication. I run a product development company in the UK and have been a researcher in R&D in Medtronic for a number of years before starting the BioNade program. So we also have a support network of collaborators. So with us, we have clinicians in the US, in the Mayo Clinic. We have clinicians in Cork University Hospital, Galway University Hospital, and shortly in Dublin. And we're working very much with Steve over there in the Health Innovation Hub. And we won a competition last year in order to work with them to pull together patient engagement and clinician engagement. We've also got a design partner. We do development in-house in our lab in Galway University Hospital, but we have a specific expert in human factors that we work with specifically to get a consumer product at the end. And we also have commercial expertise, so external partners, and we have consultants in intellectual property, regulatory, reimbursement, and we have a number of mentors who are successful CEOs in Ireland already, and specifically in the West Coast. So far, we started, myself and Michelle, we started in August 2017 on the BioNade program. It's a needs-led innovation program lasting 10 months. The first 8 weeks involve clinical immersion. So we shadow doctors, we shadow nurses, we shadow anyone on the patient pathway, and we get to talk to patients as well. Our first clinical immersion of 4 weeks was in Galway University Hospital and Cork University Hospital, and the second 4 weeks was in the Mayo Clinic in the US. And we were fully immersed for the full 4 weeks there. So the program allows you to filter down these identified observations into needs, and eventually you come to your top need. And that's validated along the way by going back and forth to your clinicians through research and through general discussions and perhaps additional surveys. And our top need was in the area of pleural effusions, which I'll discuss a little bit about later. So in June of that year, we submitted an application to Una and her colleagues in Enterprise Ireland, and we got awarded that funding in September, and we started proper with the company in October, so last October. So the area of malignant pleural effusion, so effectively it's fluid on the lung. So typically between your chest wall and your lung, you have a space there which could be described as a balloon, and there's only 1 to 2 teaspoons of fluid in there, and it allows the two to slide over each other. With a malignant pleural effusion, that can increase to anything up to around 2 to 3 litres. So it's a significant weight on the person's body. It affects around 15% of people with cancer. So 15% of all cancer sufferers will get a recurrent pleural effusion, and that increases up to 30% with those with lung cancer. It is palliative, and the predicted survival rate is between 3 and 12 months. And the symptoms, you get a shortness of breath, feeling of fullness, chest pain, distress, and exhaustion, as you can imagine, carrying that extra weight around with you. So the aim of the treatment is to treat the symptom initially and to improve the patient quality of life. And you do this by draining the pleural cavity and closing that space. So it's closed by a process called Pleurodesis, where there's an adhesion between the two layers. So as soon as those two layers oppose, they start an inflammatory response, and they no longer open up afterwards. So the current treatment and the current patient experience is an indwelling pleural catheter, or an IPC. Some of the issues are, you can see in the image here, you have an invasive tunneling procedure. So that image in the bottom left outlines where there's a catheter up under the skin, and then it goes into the pleural cavity. So it's quite traumatic for the patient when that goes in. It can be very painful. and it requires an anesthesiologist to be in the room. You've also got an uncomfortable external tube. You've got long-term patient drainage, so they can be draining for up to a year in the house. And you've got home support, which is absolutely required. So when we look at the opportunity for us as a technology, we look at our leading competitor, and it does very well alleviate dyspnea. And we will have to do the equivalent or better. The only problem is that the average success rate of the Pleurodesis through this treatment is only 50%. So we aim to target at least 70%. We're also looking at the time to the catheter removal. So it's very unpredictable at the moment, anything up to around about 434 days. So we're trying to bring a predictability to it, which means that the patient goes in on day 0, they have the catheter put in, they go home for 30 days, manage the treatment themselves, and then they go back into the hospital, the catheter gets taken out, and then they go home and they no longer have any recurrent effusion. On patient usability, which certainly resonated with me with a lot of the speakers in the room today, it is indicated for self-use, but it's a very, very difficult thing to do. We've all tried it and failed. So we are trying to massively improve upon that, and we have a number of ways identified through the engagement we've had with our clinicians and patients. So on to our collaborations. So we've got clinical collaborations, technical collaborations, and academic collaborations. Within the clinical collaborations, we are partnering with patients, so it's not just a voice. It is very much the patient is on the journey all along with us. And we are certainly having a core of that in Ireland through the Health Innovation Hub, whereby we set up focus groups with patients, and we get access to clinicians who sit down with us, who brainstorm and give feedback on possible ways of tackling things, on the way that we're looking at changing the procedure, on the way that we want to allow the patient to do the drainage at home themselves. We have clinicians in Galway University Hospital. Our lead clinician is there, and we're working with clinicians down in Cork University Hospital very closely. And we still maintain relationships with our Mayo Clinic clinicians, and there's a constant to and fro with them to ensure that we're capturing all the voices from the US as well. We're also going through a program with Trinity College. Again, that's for patient access and clinician access and feedback. And this is a very interesting one. We recently went for a European funding to partner with an innovation agency in the NHS to get clinician and patient access to get the feedback for design inputs. And we were unsuccessful. But the agency got back to us and said, we really want to work with you. Despite not having any funding in place, come over on Friday. So I flew over there last Friday, and we discussed a way of moving the project forward. And we've identified a way that we can fund it, and that's going to be a massive bonus for us to get access to even more patients and access to the NHS system. So from a technical collaboration point of view, our design partner is an expert in human factors design and patient-centric design. So empathic design process is the one that we're looking at. So we're talking to patients, their family, the public health staff, anyone that has any input to their treatment, and anyone that can influence how the design should be. So the aim is to get those insights and experiences, and the outcome is to get an appropriate design and usability features. And the clinician involvement, and our partners very much work with us, so they sit in on sessions. They want to get that first-hand feedback. We find it very important that we run the sessions. We know the most about the area, and we want to be able to have straight feedback for questions that come from the left field. So it's important for us to have control over that, but having them in the room and them hearing the voice firsthand is also very, very powerful. So the clinicians will also sit in on benchtop testing and cadaveric testing, and that way we can ensure we have a more effective procedure and a more effective device. And with the academic collaborations, because we are under the umbrella of NUIG, we do have a lot of support. So we have clinician access in other therapeutic areas, and our device can be indicated for other therapeutic areas along the way. Our first indication is in malignant pleural effusions, but there are others. We've also got access to testing and build facilities within the university. The Department of Anatomy allow us access to the cadavers so that we can do clinician validation activities. And the School of Economics are currently looking at a healthcare technology assessment so that potentially for further funding or investment, we've got a stronger argument about how much we're actually saving the system. And the Mayo Clinic, this is kind of unrelated, but it's very much related to the way that we work and the relationships that we want to build along the way. We continue the relationships with the Mayo Clinic in the way that now we're writing a paper on bedside collaboration and the influence a multidisciplinary team has with clinicians and the way they think innovatively. And that paper we're writing on and aiming to have complete at the end of this year. So our product development timeline is we've completed cadaveric testing. We are very early stage. We are still researching, but we have completed a number of activities in the bench and prototype work, and we've submitted for one element of our device a patent which we know is going to stay the same. And we're looking at having a final concept or a minimal viable product concept completed by the end of this year. And all along that way, we'll be collecting patient and clinician feedback and validation. So that is probably the most vital activity for us on this project. And our aim is to then submit a full device patent and have potential to have FDA clearance in 2021. So when it comes to the challenges that we've come across along the way, certainly patient access. And at the start, it was bemusing to see how we were going to get through it all, but with the collaborations we had, with the can-do attitude, we've managed to really make strides with that. And it's a testament to the buy-in that we get on this project. Clinician time, that continues to be a challenge. Even when we do get clinician time, it can be sporadic. So it can be a half an hour here, 20 minutes there. It all depends whether they pulled off something more important. And academic systems, so anyone in a large system like NUIG will know that it takes a long time to get through things, but we look at that and we ensure that we build in enough in the time frame to get through those challenges. And our budget it's reasonable, but it is still challenging, and it always will be challenging to anyone, whatever budget they have, I guess. And the positives that we've seen along the way are certainly the link with the palliative care group. Going down into Limerick and doing a knowledge transfer event was an eye-opener to the palliative care world, and some of the relationships that we've created since has been very beneficial to us. It is an open and collaborative network in Ireland. I see a lot of it in the west of Ireland being based there, but it's Ireland-wide, but it is exceptional in the west in particular. So we see that the hospitals are open to collaboration. We've got academic institutes. We've got Cork University. We've got Dublin Trinity College. Everyone is open to working with them. And what we always try to do when we get people involved is take time to tell them exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and get the buy-in right from the start to see, is this a relationship that really could work well? The multinationals, I've worked in a multinational, and those relationships have really stood strong. So when I need something, it'll cost thousands to get from scratch, or you can go up and ask a friend, and they'll give you some parts that'll help you out massively to design quicker. The startup community is very, very strong and very collaborative in Galway in particular, and networking events. However horrendous they can be at the start, they always end up really good, and there's always a connection with somebody. And the can-do attitude, it really is. It's very much a positive right from the start, and see how we can tackle this. So it is a very thriving community of support. And I personally believe on genuine connections. And you get that quite quickly with people, and then you always want to see them again, you want to work with them. And that's very important for me in my day-to-day job and with the project as a whole. So Michelle and myself, we're very passionate about the area that we're working in, and I do believe we get a lot of buy-in from people because of that. And for us, it is about giving the patient independence, comfort, and quality of life at a time that matters most to them. So I've just put in a slide to outline a couple of the resources that we've used, and I'd like to thank Enterprise Ireland for giving us the opportunity to spend 2 years proving out our technology and potentially making a big difference in the area of palliative care. Thank you very much.